Palisa, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, it's all happening as Nasrec now. People have already started arriving and getting ready for the first day of the National Policy Conference, which is taking place here just behind the FNB Stadium and across the road from Soweto. And amongst the many issues that are going to be discussed, I suppose always important, and I think the ANC has shown this over time with the way that it's deployed its cadres, gender and women issues always high on the agenda. To talk to us a little bit about the Women's League input in the policy conference, I'm now joined by the President of the Women's League, Minister Bathabile Dlamini. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Are you satisfied with the work that the Women's League has done leading up to this policy conference?
Yes. We have participated in the structures of the ANC. But before we attend meetings of the ANC, we meet as the Women's League, and so that we can develop our message and our narrative, and then go to the ANC so that we can be able to present reasonable and implementable and defendable positions.
All right, so tell us a little bit in broad terms, what is the Women's League bringing to the policy conference? What are the issues that you want to become ANC policy?
Firstly, for us, unity of the ANC is sacrosanct. And therefore, we believe that issues that have not been adopted by conferences of the ANC and have not been discussed must not be taken as a policy positions of the ANC, but also the leadership of the ANC must desist from discussing issues as if they are ANC policy and redirecting our energies or diverting our focus and energies on issues that are really neither here and there, issues that have to do with individual feelings and issues of people that want to defend their positions at the expense of what the movement believes in and what made people believe in the ANC. The strong values of the ANC that have carried the ANC for 104 years. For us, we think that is very important. Secondly, the issue of the land, we have been focusing on that issue. We've discussed it, but what is important is that as the Women's League, we invited researchers who came to talk about our history. And therefore, you have to understand clearly the history of the ANC and understand that the 1913 Land Act was the end, actually, of taking our land. Our other things had been done before the treaties and agreement. And therefore, you need to look into the Constitution. And in the Constitution, there is only one area that has a time frame. It is the issue of the land. It says up until 1913. And when our land was occupied long before 1913. We also want to discuss the issues of violence against women and children. And we're saying that we must come up with new strategies. And we are saying, actually, on the issues of gender, the ANC must resuscitate its committee on women's emancipation, because this is the committee that gives direction to the ANC as a whole. And the ANC is the leader of the society. And if the leader of the society is not strong on the issues of women's emancipation, violence against women and children, representation of women in decision-making bodies, the killings of women during the elections, which says to women, this is not your area. All those things must be looked into. The powers of the women's ministry and the budget of the women's ministry. Chapter 9 institutions, we are saying they must be fully funded, but we believe we want to focus on the Commission on Gender Equality. It must be well funded so that it can be able to intervene on the issues of women. With the present funding, it will never be able to deal with the issues of women. The women's ministry, monitoring, evaluation, and other few areas won't do anything for women. We want the women's ministry to focus on the empowerment of women, upliftment of the lives and quality and lives of women, ensuring that what is in the Constitution is implemented in the form of legislation. Right. For instance, equity and equality and the human rights. All those are about women and children. Right. And the vulnerable in the society.
Do you think that these concerns would be better actioned by a woman president?
Okay. Firstly, we must all be clear that if we talk about a woman president, we are not just talking about a woman. We are talking about a leader of the movement who has been tried and tested, who joined the ANC and was part of Steve Bigo's team or generation, and grew up organically within the structures of the movement. And therefore, if people say we want a president because she is a woman, yes, she is a woman, but that does not take away from her the role she has played in the ANC and in the struggle for women's emancipation. And therefore, she is befitting to be the president of the country. And she has shown her leadership qualities outside South Africa, when she was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, when she was the Minister of Health, and when she was the Minister of Home Affairs. She has made a huge shift wherever she is.
All right. Thank you very, very much indeed. I think you gave us some fairly comprehensive points of view and answers going into the conference, and wish you the best of luck over the next few days. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
So that was the president of the Women's League, Bathabile Dlamini, sharing her thoughts with us about the role of women and gender issues, and also who their preferred candidate is for the next president of the party and obviously the country going forward. That's where I'm going to leave it for this morning. My colleagues such as Griselda Lewis will be taking over a little bit later on. But right now, my partner in crime this morning has been Aldrin Sampear. Aldrin?
Well, yes, we've come to the end of this special broadcast on Morning Live, the first of 5 others to come as the ANC discuss its policy proposals as well as policy ideas. Quite a number of issues that we expect to be raised, and our colleagues here, Lukanyo Kalata as well as Griselda Lewis, will be taking over from around about 9 o'clock this morning. And Griselda was joking about the interview that I did earlier on with Zizi Gota, where I ended up by saying that let's hope that a rose will grow from this rock, and certainly, Griselda, is that. Are you that little rock that will grow, or that has grown? The rose that has grown from this rock?
Eldrin, I will not get into that. But it was really fascinating. I did laugh at that this morning. But certainly, we're expecting President Jacob Zuma to arrive here just shortly before 9 o'clock. And if the address at the gala dinner last night is anything to go by, we're expecting him to really touch on the ANC and delegates emerging from this conference with unity. And, I think most importantly, what we'll also be watching, you did allude to it that much earlier, is the organizational renewal. As President Jacob Zuma speaks of the ANC emerging much more stronger and unified, irrespective of the policies that it decides to come up with, it would also need to emerge much stronger and deal with the challenges that this party is facing in order to restore the confidence of South Africans in faith that it will be able to take the country and the economy forward.
Well, certainly at a time when the ANC's numbers in terms of the elections and electoral support is dwindling. Let me just quickly bring in Lukanyo Kalata, who will be joining Griselda Lewis later on this morning as they are covering the ANC's policy conference as well as President Jacob Zuma's address that will be taking place. What are some of the key issues that you think that the party should be addressing ahead of the policy conference? And of course, we also know that we're expecting a consultative conference that was supposed to have taken place, but now it's called a dialogue over 2 days.
Aldrin, good morning, firstly. I think one of the things that has been very much spoken about in the run-up to this policy conference is issues of the economy. We're currently in recession, technically. There are certain bills that were passed in Parliament a little bit earlier this year that address the issues of the economy and also what the ANC has been saying in Parliament about economic development, issues of moving us forward. So I think the economy will likely take center stage. I do think also that issues of education is likely to be quite crucial because you can't really grow the economy if you're not improving on issues of education within the country. And I think the issues that relate to integrity, issues that relate to leadership are definitely issues that will be quite high up on the agenda, or issues that will be at least discussed quite intensely, because we come into a conference, or at least the ANC comes into a conference when Parliament is busy investigating certain members of the executive, high-ranking ANC members for issues that aren't necessarily, or that don't necessarily portray the party in a good light. So I think those are some of the issues.
Well, definitely the state of capture investigation, and many will be calling for President Jacob Zuma, as the NEC has put it, to urgently set up that commission of inquiry into state capture. Right now, we've come to the end of this broadcast, as we've indicated. It's goodbye for now, and thank you so much for joining us. But as we've indicated earlier on, Lukanyo Kalata as well as Griselda Lewis will be taking over. Goodbye.